Welcome to the Inviting Shift podcast. I'm your host, Christina Smith, and each week I'll be bringing together my favorite experts, coaches, clients, and friends to discuss how we navigate midlife and all of the transitions within it. So whether you're in the mood for a lighthearted conversation about menopause, seeking inspiration to find your next passion or purpose, or just want to create deeper connection with yourself or others, this is the place to be. Share these conversations with your friends. And if you're navigating midlife solo, come connect with us, join us, reach out. We'd love to hear from you. And we will show you how the second half can be even better than the first half. On to this week's circle. Welcome back to the Inviting Shift podcast. I am here with some really beautiful women that are going to talk about health and menopause. And this is something that I don't think, most of us didn't learn about. Maybe we had some great moms and grandmoms that talked to us about it, but a lot of us, it was just kind of something that women keep to themselves. And so this is to talk about what is it that we can do and what is it that's changing in our midlife that is different? What kinds of things do we have to do differently that maybe the same old health stuff isn't working for us? So I'm your host, Christina Smith. I'm a midlife coach. I want women all over the world to be really confident so that their second half can be the more confident half of their life. And I'm going to introduce some of our guests. Maryam is one of my favorite people. We connect every week for accountability, and I love that about us. Maryam, can you tell us a little bit more about what it is that you do and who you are?
Yeah. Thanks, Christina, for having me on. I'm Maryam Solhjou. I am a midlife coach, and I help midlifers cultivate more intention and wisdom in their relationships, the relationships they have with themselves, the people in their lives. So the second half of their life, they feel nurtured in those relationships.
Beautiful. Thank you, Maryam. And Melissa, tell us a little bit about you. You're pretty new to me, but I'm really excited to get to know you and have this conversation.
Well, thank you for having me and for the conversation. I'm excited to be here. My name is Melissa Rohlfs. I'm a holistic health and life coach, and I help women and teen girls cultivate a healthy relationship with food and a positive body image. So hormones, menopause, all plays a part in that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Sure, absolutely. And as we're getting to menopause, sometimes we have bodies that we didn't have before. Yeah. And we're getting used to them all over again. And so what a perfect place for you to have that conversation. And Dana, I have had Dana on the Inviting Shift podcast before, and she's been on the summit, and we just love her for all things health and menopause.
Thank you. And thanks for having me. And yes, we have had a little bit of a love affair for the past year or so, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Dana Lawson. I'm a certified health coach and menopause coach. And so I help women to understand what's happening to their bodies as they're going through this process and help them to find solutions that will align with them. And I use 4 pillars of stress management, sleep, getting good sleep, nutrition, and exercise, as well as other holistic means to really dial in what their body needs at this time so they can really be happy.
I love that because every woman's body is different. I have clients who they're through menopause and they're like, yeah, I didn't even know what was happening. It was just done. And it was like, whoo, blessings to you, because that has not been my experience whatsoever. And before we start talking, I just want to let everybody know none of us are medical doctors. So what we're going to be talking about today is from our experiences, our clients' experiences. You should still go see a medical professional that you that you trust in to get the right solutions for you but these are going to be some ways in which we have helped ourselves or helped clients or even, got from Auntie Maisie that she told us what we might try, but this is not medical advice. I just want to clarify that before we go on. We're just a bunch of midlife women having a conversation about what it's like to go through life. And so with that, what's menopause like for y'all? I'm curious. Anybody can jump in here because I gotta tell you, it's been a roller coaster for me. And I'm not sure if it's like all the transitions in my life, but it's like there's a lot going on with my body. And we were just talking about that before we started, but what are these things that are going on in our body?
I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I am about 5 years postmenopausal. So things have calmed down quite a bit for me. The perimenopausal years were absolutely horrendous, but part of it was because I just didn't know what was going on. And I had no knowledge of this stage called perimenopause. So it was pretty horrible. Lots of the classic symptoms like hot flashes, night sweats, weight gain, depression, like emotional. I'm a very, very positive, upbeat person. I love being around people. People give me energy. So when I started to retreat from people, I wanted to be alone more. I was depressed and cried a lot. That was really unusual for me. So the hot flashes and night sweats were another, one piece of it that was uncomfortable during the day, kept me up at night, obviously. But what really made me want to look into this a little bit more was the emotional piece. I said to myself, I can't live like this. I just cannot, I don't want to live like this. And the little bit that I did know was that it could last up to 10 years. And I was like, oh, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not. So that's when I started my own personal journey to try to find out what in the world just happened. It felt like somebody flipped a switch and then all of a sudden these things were happening. Now I know that's not the truth, but it just felt that way. So I needed to know what was my body doing, what was going on, and how I could best support myself so that I wouldn't, I can decrease the discomfort, feel more like myself, be that happy, energetic person that I always was. And so that was my experience. And it started probably, as I look back, you learn so many things when you look backwards, don't you, Christina?
Yeah.
I was probably in my late 30s when I started having the emotional changes, and then came the night sweats and the hot flashes in my early 40s.
I love that you say that because I mean, maybe that's where we start is like, where are we on our journey? And for me, it's like, I feel like I'm 4 or 5 years into perimenopause and I didn't notice it as much before because we were in a really cozy spot in our lives. So like every time the emotions came up, I was like, I'm just feeling emotional. I'm just not going to make any major decisions today. I could use all my life coaching tools and be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get through this. But for me, it really has tuned up in the last like 6 months as we've been going through a lot of like moving across the country again, living with family, doing all kinds of interesting things that I never saw in my future, and now trying to adjust to all that. It's even gotten to the point where lately I'm like, I don't know if the life coaching tools are helping me because it's like really physiology, right? Like I can use those coaching tools as much as possible, but it doesn't make me not feel like I want to tear my skin off sometimes or like I get itchy and all these like weird things that people have told me, like I didn't know that there was such a thing as the period flu until I had perimenopause. And so learning to like cut down on my alcohol the week before my period or making sure that, I just watch all of that during the entire month is changes the way that I experience it as well. So there's a lot of things that we don't control, but there are some things that we can influence is what I've learned. How about anybody else? Where's everybody else in their little cycle of their natural cycle of menstruation or menopause?
I'm just glad there's so much media attention going to menopause. It feels like that in the last couple of years. Um, and it's not something that I learned about a long time ago. And as Dana was saying, in retrospect, now that I'm learning more, things are starting to make sense on how everything has unfolded. Like a couple of years ago, I started having these joint pains, and I just thought I had overworked myself through these major hikes that I had uh, gone through, like 8 hour hikes a day that we had done, overseas. And then I'm like, oh my God, I messed up my own body. But now I'm finding out, oh, that's part of like the whole perimenopause journey. I'm like, okay, well, at least now I have a reason that it happened. It makes sense. Um, I just saw my doctor recently, and and she's in the same age group and going through the same thing. And she's like, yeah, menopause sucks. I'm like, yeah, you're telling me. So I'm just starting to learn a lot, read a little bit more, um, figure out, what you know what I need to do going forward, how much protein I should be. I used to be vegetarian. Now they're saying, when you're in this stage, you have to have more protein. Well, figuring out how much protein I need to eat. And now I'm walking around with a weighted vest because I have to make sure that my muscles are staying strong. So I guess, learning more and self-educating myself on the steps that I need to take to just help myself through this phase. I'm glad we're talking about it. I have two daughters, and I think it's great that they see me going through it, because it was not really something that was even talked about when I was growing up. I never even heard anybody mention it, really.
I love that because my mom was thin. But when she was like, I remember her starting to get all the VHS tapes of like cardio exercise because her body was changing and she was getting the stomach and she was getting the curves that she never had before. And she really thought that cardio was going to be the way that she was just going to burn that belly off, right? And that's what they told you in the 80s and 90s anyway, is like, cut your fat and get your your skinny on. And I think now that it's being talked about more, there is a part of me that accepts more the bigger belly that I'm having and the bigger hips and the rump that I never had before, which is nice. And it gets to be a bit much and a lot different. So with that, I mean, I really want to turn it to like Melissa, because it's like our bodies are changing. And I know that body acceptance is one of the things that you work usually with mom and teenagers, but there's a whole new body acceptance when you come into menopause, because like things are different than they'd ever been before.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so funny because that's the thing, like our bodies are always changing. And I think the disconnect is a lot of us haven't been taught how to listen to them or what they're saying to us. So like we'll maybe recognize we have a craving. And so we're in the pantry eating the chips or the ice cream. And it's like, we don't even ask what we're craving. Maybe we are craving more alone time. Maybe we're craving more sleep. Maybe we're craving more creativity or social connection. And so I think, kind of deciphering and getting curious and saying, what do I need? What does my body need right now at this stage, at this season, not where I was, not where I want to be, but like where I am right now. I think there's a lot of benefit to that, because it's a totally different season and stage of life that we're in. And you can't really blame it on your kids. Because as you guys were talking, I was like, oh, okay. I thought maybe this was part of having two teenagers, but no, I think it's perimenopause.
You just thought it was all the snacks that you had around for the teenagers? Yep. Yeah, the body changes. I was always like underweight, like to the point where people would be asking me like, how much do you weigh? Because I was so thin. And now, like a few years ago, I was telling a doctor about some gut issues I had, and he was just like, I was just like, oh, well, I had a hard time gaining weight when I was younger. And he looked at me and he goes, doesn't look like you have a problem now. And I was like, oh,
Wow.
way to be blunt, sir.
The rudeness.
The rudeness, exactly. So if it's not cardio and like fats and oils, what is it that we need to be changing? And like I said, one of the things that I noticed was alcohol has a huge impact on how I experience menopause. And I love a cocktail, don't get me wrong. However, I now have to be careful when I'm having those cocktails and really being conscious of, to what Melissa said, what am I actually craving? And I think sometimes we can be quick to pick up, I can be quick, let me speak for myself, to pick up a drink because it's the easy way to relax, right? Like instead of doing the meditation or the breathing or the whatever, the mindfulness stuff, like it's just an easy way at the end of the day to relax, but there's other ways to do it. What are some of the other things that are impacting us in menopause and perimenopause?
One thing that I remember coming across as I was going through my process was that I didn't associate the changes that I was experiencing with my health. I just thought that they were isolated things that were making me uncomfortable in my body. But I didn't realize the impact on my health. That was such a brain blow for me because now I don't, when a woman comes to me and she says, oh, these hot flashes are just relentless. And, it's like, well, they're really not just, a bothersome nuisance. It actually has an effect on your heart and your brain. And that's where the hot flashes start. It's the temperature regulation in the brain that's being affected. And it's not a little thing that you can just blow off or just say, well, I'll fan myself or drink some ice water. No, that it really, affects a major system in the body and it needs to be addressed. And, the weight gain is not just uncomfortable. And I wanted to make a little joke, Christina, because, women are buying these parts of the body these days, right?
I know. Good thing Kim Kardashian made my button style, right?
So, what we thought was, not attractive is actually, more attractive these days. But I mean, we're not trying to live up to any societal standards, of course, but it's those changes that are affecting your metabolism. So, then it's like, okay, well, if I'm not hungry, I think like Melissa mentioned, what do I really need? Is it sleep? Yeah, we've gone decades by the time menopause comes without getting good sleep. Our sleep is interrupted either because of a racing brain or night sweats or what have you. So, these are life and body processes that support good health. And so when they start to fall apart and things start changing, it is going to affect our health. I think, Maryam, you mentioned the joint pain. It's like, well, you start to blame yourself. You're like, oh no, all that good hiking I did, I might have hurt myself. I might have ruined it for myself. Actually, you did a really good thing for yourself, to keep your body strong. But those pains, if we don't address them and do the other lifestyle things and maybe some other supportive measures that we take to strengthen our bones, strengthen our muscles, and then we could be at risk for things that shorten our life and affect the quality of our lives.
Yeah. Sleep is so important. It's so important. And I even feel like I read somewhere that in midlife women should actually have 9 to 10 hours would be optimal of sleep. And so we always say it's 7, 8 hours, but that's actually like before this midlife. That's our prime time is like 7 to 8 hours of sleep. So we actually need more sleep because what you're saying is like our body is going through it. And when I'm going through a hot flash, like I can feel it in my heart. Like I actually have to go lay down. Like I can't breathe. I start getting really weird in my head where I can't hear things properly. Like this is all connected. And I didn't know this because as I was going into perimenopause, only a couple of these things would pop up at first. And like Dana was saying, I was like, oh, this is just, I'm just having anxiety. It must be anxiety. Or, oh, yeah, I'm a little warm. But then they start coming heavier together. And it's like, oh, I see. This is actually all connected. This actually has so much to do with everything that's going on. Down to, like, I heard the other day that itchy ears can be a part of menopause. And I was like, that makes so much sense. I'm in the middle of the night and I'm just like, why are my ears itchy? What are going on here? I actually have Q-tips next to my bed now because I can't stand it. I would have looked at any old lady and been like, I don't know what you're doing with the Q-tips next to your bed, but today I'm just like, that was helpful. Yes, Q-tips next to the bed so that I can sleep at night. And so I think it's just crazy, like how many things can be connected to it. And it's also, sad to say that there's 6 times as many people who study erectile dysfunction than they study periods alone, let alone menopause and what we go through. And so this is why we don't talk about it, because we don't know enough about it, right? Like it's like this big mystery that women have been going through for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, which just seems so crazy. And it can show up differently for different people, which I also think is amazing, because I feel like I'm like, every time I find a box, I'm like, yep, check that one too. Yep, that one too. Like they're all of them. And so with that, like, what kind of exercises have we all been doing in order to, I heard Maryam say she's doing strength training, that she has a weighted vest. So when she's walking, she's getting that extra strength training, because what I've heard, and, anybody can correct me, is that we're starting to lose muscle, and it's a lot harder to build muscle once you start losing it than to maintain what we have. Anybody experiencing that?
I don't know about experiencing it, but that's the same thing that I've read and heard as well. So I'm doing strength training. I never did strength training. I was like your mom, like I had to do the cardio and sweat it off. And now I'm like, nope, I'm lifting, I'm doing push-ups, I'm like doing all the things with weights.
Yeah.
So true. I mean, I think one of the sad realities about, our society is that they promote exercise solely for weight loss. How about we exercise just so that we can feel good, that we can protect our bodies? How about it be prevention instead of, there's something wrong with you, so now you need to exercise because you don't look like you should look. And that, I think, is a really, really huge mind shift and a society shift that needs to happen. But the more that, we have conversations like this one, Christina, we can really address that. That's a misnomer. In fact, I read a study where younger women who in that are, just like at that 35-year age, where progesterone starts to go down, estrogen kind of fluctuates a little bit, but it's very slight, so we can miss it at that age. But because they did not put enough effort into exercise in their early age, they're starting to lose bone early. So you have an earlier onset of osteoporosis because of now you're losing your hormones. And so it's affecting your bone mineral density. But if you didn't do that early on and work out when you're young, then you're really going to lose it. So I think that's where we have to start. Is exercise is not just for weight loss. That's a side benefit. That exercise really makes you feel good. You're growing stronger in your mind and in your body. It makes you feel good. And then the other part, yeah, aesthetically, it makes you look good too. But the other pieces should really, really be more important, because as we reach midlife, if we haven't put that effort in early in our 20s, and to then make that change, because the body responds so well, we're just designed so well. So, I think that's really huge for me. And yes, I have a weighted vest. I do lots and lots of walking. I have a nice gym that my husband bought, and a nice bench with incremental weights, and like the old time barbell weights. So those are really, really helpful.
I love that you say that about weight, because so we just had the Olympics and they lined up all the Olympian women, and it was like, sure, some of them have the ideal, whatever we think ideal model body is, but most of them don't. I mean, they come in all shapes and sizes and, you know, tallness and whatever. Like, it's all, different. Some are curvy, some are boxy, some like, and so just because your body doesn't look like, it did 20 years ago, it's not supposed to. It doesn't mean that we can't be strong and healthy, because like you said, it's about prevention, or even like lengthening the quality of our life, right? Like, it's okay if we live a long life, but I sure would appreciate the quality of life of being able to move and be active and as long as possible. Not just that. So I love that, we can start to look at what does healthy look like, not just the girls in the magazines, because that's not really. I got to tell you, when I was underweight, I felt sicker than I did when I gained the weight. Like, I would rather be a few pounds over than pounds under, because I have more energy that way. I feel I just feel healthier, and I can do more and I don't have to keep eating like a rabbit all day, because my body couldn't contain calories for very long because I'd be burning them off, and it was just terrible. So I think that, like what Melissa does about uh, body acceptance, right, is really like, and I always love the quote that says, radical transformation starts with the radical acceptance of what is. It's Daniel Laporte quote, because if we can accept where we are, then we can say, great, I love you, body. I love where we are. And do I want to change some things? Do I want to be stronger? Do I want to have more energy? Sure. But starting with acceptance first, is that what you would work with, Melissa, with your clients?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's accepting and acknowledging like everything your body does for you, everything it's done for you, because our bodies are amazing. I mean, think of like everything that your body enables you to do. It enables you to live the life that you have. And I think really focusing on that is powerful. But I think too, to Dana's point, like it's life and body. And those two are so interconnected. Like our lives affect our bodies, they affect our health. Like you can't separate the two regardless how hard you try. So absolutely, I think starting there is a great place with the acceptance.
Beautiful. And Miriam, I heard you say that you're eating more protein than ever before, which is like something that is just like, and when you say like there's more media on menopause, I'm just like, is that because it's in my timeline because I'm
Yes.
that age, or is there really a lot more out there? I'm not sure, but I do hear a lot about, like, as we age, protein becomes really important. So tell us a little bit about how your diet may have changed with the protein.
Um, I was thinking, is it me that I'm in menopause that I'm hearing more about it, or is there really more about it? I feel there's more about it in the media. I believe Oprah did this whole thing on menopause, and then you have all these experts now, like Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who's like promoting like the weighted vest and things to do like that. But the higher protein also leads to higher cholesterol, right? So, but then like right now I've changed my diet a little bit. I used to be a vegetarian, so now I'm having more protein, but I'm also seeing in my blood work that my cholesterol has gone up a little bit. But that can also come with, when you're in perimenopause as well. So it's like, what do I attribute this to? And, what am I gonna, do about it? So that's something I'm still learning and playing with. I wanted to just go back to something that Dana said. One thing that I'm really focusing on is, I mean, my middle has gotten bigger last year. I think I gained like 12 pounds. It felt like overnight that my middle section got bigger. But what I'm learning is how I maintain my body right now will determine when I'm in my 70s what's going to happen, right? So because we hear a lot of people, and when they get older, they have a fall and they break something, right? And then that makes them have to lie in bed, and then they can't move, and it just becomes this spiral. They go down. So what we do right now really impacts how that how well we recover from whatever falls or something that we may have in the future.
Hmm. I love that too, because my parents and my husband's parents are like 5 years apart, but you would believe that they were like 20 years apart. Because my mom she's still a nurse in her 70s. She works 12-hour days. She's running around floors, but that's how she's been her entire life. So her health is so much greater, it seems, than his parents because she's just always been active and busy and doing things, And I mean, she does eat pretty healthy as well. She's a nurse. So all of those things, those 12-hour days she's been working, and she enjoys it. She wouldn't know what to do without a job. She'd be confused. What am I supposed to do all day? She enjoys it, but it's also kept her really healthy by keeping her active. And that's not to say that people shouldn't retire. It's just to say that she, was kind of forced to do that physical labor every day. And so it really makes a difference, and they do this all the time on social media. They put people up against each other and they're like, wow, they're the same age. Like, that's pretty amazing. Like, some of the Golden Girls were younger than some of us when they started the Golden Girls. And we don't look like no Golden Girls yet. I don't believe.
I'm sorry, to Miriam's point about the protein, I was a vegetarian for many years in my early 30s through my 40s. But I did it because of weight loss. I mean, it was I thought it would also help me be healthier. But as those changes started to happen in my late 30s, early 40s, I lost so much hair. My hair was coming out all over the place. And sadly, I didn't make the connection that my body was saying, I need more protein. I don't have enough to keep up with your declining muscle and keep your hair in your head. So, once I learned why, and truly, it didn't begin until I was in my 50s, my early 50s, that I made that change. And it was a huge difference. And I felt better. I had more energy. My workouts were better. So there is a lot of research that's been done and evidence that we can, that backs up the fact that we need the protein to maintain the muscle and everything else that protein does. And while we don't want the unhealthy cholesterol to go up, cholesterol is one of the building blocks of hormones. So we need to have the healthy cholesterol, in adequate amounts. And I think there's a really great solution and a healthy and happy balance between consuming animal protein and still keeping your cholesterol levels, in a healthy range. And it's all about, really getting into your body and seeing what works best for you. Because each person, DNA, their lifestyle, all those things, genetics have a lot to do with, whether our cholesterol is going to be higher or not, in this midlife stage. But all women will experience it because of the loss of estrogen that controls how our HDL cholesterol. And that's why the LDL climbs so much.
And this is, vegans and vegetarians, don't come at us. We're just giving you our experience.
Exactly.
I'm sure that there are healthy ways to get enough protein as a vegetarian or a vegan. And for me, it just would take a lot more effort. Like, we do meatless meals. Absolutely. We don't do meat all the time, but at the same time, it would take a lot more focus from me. And with my food issues, this is the best I'm doing. So we're not against vegans or vegetarians. If you have a way of doing it, tell us about it. Come on the show and tell us about how you're getting enough protein, because I don't doubt that it can be done. It's just a little bit harder. It's like just easy to do that. Hey, high protein, gobble gobble. All right. So one of the pillars that we haven't mentioned yet that you were talking about, Dana, was stress management. Whoo, boy, because that's the one that's been messing me up. Because I can do the other three as long as I don't have that fourth one like looming over me with like transitions and changes and discomfort and all of that other stuff that goes on in midlife. Because it's not just me moving across the country or changing up my lifestyle. It happens to everybody. We're losing kids because they're going off into the world, which is a good thing, but it's also a hard thing for many of us. We might be starting to care for aging parents. We might be having career shifts or career thoughts that are different. We might be in and out of friendships and wondering what that's about. There's so many changes that can happen in midlife. So, what are some of your great tips for stress management? What do we do about it?
Well, and I don't practice what I don't preach. So I'm definitely doing these things myself. One of the things that I absolutely love to do is EFT tapping. So it's emotional freedom technique, and that's a cognitive behavioral, method of managing your stress. But it's not only stress that it helps with, but it calms the nervous system. Like you have a direct line to your, using these meridian points to almost communicate with your nervous system to let your brain know that there's nothing to fear, there's no danger, you're safe. And that will help lower your cortisol levels. It's excellent for helping to deal with trauma, heal from traumatic experiences. So that I love. That's my favorite. My next favorite is journaling, because I've always loved to write. And when I write down my feelings and how I've resolved them, one thing about keeping notes is that I can look back at my journal and say, wow, look how far you've come. And really celebrate that win and be happy, about where I am now. So those are my two favorite ways of managing stress. And I think, Miriam, you were talking about, like you help women to thrive in their relationships, and we have less reserve, I'll say, when it comes to the challenges. And that's why stress hits us so hard in perimenopause. We don't have what we used to have in our bodies, these hormones that support us when we go through stressful times. And so now we could be hit with the same stress as we did when we were 20, but now we're crumbling at 40. And it's because, and that's, I think, to your point, Miriam, about relationships, why they're so difficult, because of, what we are experiencing at this time.
What we're going through. And I work with men and women. So for my male clients out there, just so.
Give them a shout out.
So for stress, now it might be because of my background in coaching. I have a lot of tools that I use for stress. Like some of them, journaling is one of them, right? I have a couple of prompts that I do in the evening and a couple of prompts in the morning before I start my day. I love Tai Chi. That's been very helpful. I started doing Tai Chi mainly for, the breathing techniques, because I had a hard time like doing meditation, just sitting and breathing. So Tai Chi is a moving meditation. And as I started that, I noticed, this is also actually helping my bones and muscles, because you have to go down really slow, get up really slow. I do that. I love spending time in nature. I love hiking. We love going to the mountains. So that's really helpful. And coming back to what Christina said about acceptance, I think that has been my automatic go-to usually. When I get there faster nowadays, is that accepting, right? So like last year when I had, all of a sudden I had this weight gain around my middle, like my clothes weren't fitting me. And so Melissa, I'm sure you can speak to this. And then so when I would go into my closet, I would look at all of these clothes that no longer fit me. And then after a while, I'm like, look, I can't keep walking into my closet and seeing these clothes that no longer fit, because I may not immediately notice it, but my subconscious is noticing, oh my God, none of this stuff fits me anymore. So first of all, I gave half my closet away. The things that I really loved, I put in a duffel bag. I put it in the closet. I'm giving myself like a couple of years to see if they'll fit me or not. And then I will donate those clothes as well. So acceptance of, I'm in a different stage. I'm in a different season of my life. This is what my body is going to be like, right? For right now, I'm going to do what I can for it. But I also don't want to fight it, because first of all, I'm setting an example. I'm modeling for my daughters, right? My body is going to look different. I am different than I was 10 years ago. So, I think acceptance of the changes that we go through, I think for me, like that's like the number one thing to help me manage my stress.
Awesome. And I loved all that you said, because EFT, it helps me when I'm in a hot flash. Like, even if it's just to distract my brain and to like bring that cortisol level down so that my heart stops doing that thing, like whatever. I love that. And journaling, I mean, I gotta tell you, as much of a life coach and I've told people to do it, I stopped doing it for a while, and just in the last 6 months, as things have changed a lot in my life, it's really been helpful for me to like write down all these emotional thoughts that I'm having and then look at it and say, okay, I see the uncomfortable wounded child voice in that, or some people would say victim. I don't like to call it victim because then we all get defensive. But that wounded child part of us, it's like, I'm really uncomfortable. I don't want this to happen right now. And then being able to step in the more empowered part of me and going, okay, Christina, as an adult to your adult, what is it that we actually need out of this situation? So both of those have been really helpful to me. For my clients, they do visualizations. They love visualizations because it helps them tap into their own wisdom rather than like staying focused on whatever the discomfort is that's going on. And yeah, what else? What else, Melissa? What do you do? How do you calm your clients down and get them into a calmer state of mind so that they can see the reality?
Yeah, there's two things you guys didn't mention, because everything else I'm totally on board with. But one thing is the 5-5-7 breath, because it kind of links the sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic. It calms the body and the brain down, because when we are stressed and overwhelmed, our brain might be doing one thing and our body's doing another. So this kind of brings them together and helps you calm down. It's free. You can do it anywhere. You can do it at the grocery store when somebody's in the express lane, and they have 25 items when they're only supposed to have 10. But you can do the 5-5-7 breath, where you breathe in for 5 seconds, you hold that breath for 5 seconds, and then you exhale for 7 seconds. So that's one thing I love to do. The other thing that really helps me is to make sure I have enough time, because my stressor is being rushed. So I always try to like give myself buffer in my schedule. I get up before my family, so I have alone time. Like, I think it's kind of knowing what your triggers are, what makes you feel stressed, and doing things to work what you can control in your circumstance to make it not trigger you. So those are my two.
I love that. Those are both really great too. Thanks for making sure we got those in as well. So we have come to this has been such a lovely conversation. I could laugh with you ladies all day about, the menopause, even though it's not so funny. It is kind of funny, right? We have to laugh at what we can, because what else can we do? Cry, I guess, but it's not as much fun. So now we're going to leave with one piece of wisdom, and if share whatever it is that you want to share about you and your business and whatever is going on. But I guess I would leave us with, what is it I wanted to leave us with? I felt like there was something a second ago that you were talking about, and I was like, that's so good. See? Another symptom of menopause is I can't remember the damn thing that was just there a second ago. So with that, I'm actually going to have y'all check out first, and then come back to me, and I'm sure it'll come back up. Maryam, what's one piece of wisdom you got?
That's so funny. Okay. So I'm going through all these changes, and I see, midlifers around me going through all these changes. I think the one piece of wisdom is knowing what I have control over and what I don't. Yeah. And just an understanding of that there are certain things that I'm not going to have control over, and to have compassion for myself and others as we're just going through this navigating this shifting terrain. right, that comes with the stage.
Would you like to leave us with anything around your business? All of Maryam's links are below. So if you want to get in touch with her and talk about your relationships and midlife and all of that other jazz, you can get a hold of her there. Awesome. Thanks, Maryam. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Melissa?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is to be curious and compassionate with yourself. It's really easy to maybe get discouraged and judge yourself and criticize yourself and think, oh my gosh, it wasn't this way and I'm changing. And that doesn't really serve anybody. So if you can kind of replace judgment with curiosity and maybe start to ask, why is this happening? Why am I feeling this way? Do some research, really learn to connect with your body. I think that's really empowering. So my big thing is to replace judgment with curiosity.
Okay, and all of Melissa's links are below as well. So if you guys want to get a hold of Melissa, if there's a body acceptance and loving on your body, she can help you. And Dana.
Yeah, I love what both Maryam and Melissa said, and I think my gem of wisdom today would be to get out of your head and get into your body. We spend so much time in our heads worrying about this, what we did do, what we didn't do, what we should have done, feeling guilty about, things that don't even have anything to do with us. And all of that creates like this swirl of things in our heads. And we forget about this beautifully designed gift of our bodies and how our mind and body is connected. But if we spend too much time in our heads and less time in our body, then I think we do become impatient, less compassionate, not curious, right, Melissa? Because we're spending too much time in here. If we could just be more with this body, and I think like all of us have mentioned, to be more compassionate, to really show appreciation for this gift, and be grateful for what the things that we can do, what the things that we can change if we want to change them. But nobody doesn't. You don't do any good hating yourself on this journey. You'll get there either way, but you'll get there a lot better and a lot faster and a lot more, a lot healthier emotionally if you love what you have and appreciate what you have, change what you can, and just be grateful for
I love that. And all your links will be down below too. Dana's really great about helping women through menopause. So if you're struggling, that's would be a really great place for you to find some good resources. What I was going to say is kind of connected to all of that was permission to slow down and permission to, because that's the hard part for me, is like, I know I should be doing like slowing down. I know I should like I'm having a hot flash. Maybe I should just go lay down for 10 minutes. But it's like, damn it, I'm in the middle of something. I don't want to. I want to finish this thing, right? So, and I actually wrote down permission to slow down and tune into your body, because I think we have a monkey mind, and it can make us really crazy if we don't actually tune in to what it is we want. And to what Melissa said earlier, we just grab the carbs, or for me, like the vodka, instead of going, what is it that I'm actually craving right now? What is it that and we can't do that from our brains. We have to do that in our bodies. Thank you all for being here. This has been a lovely conversation. One of my favorites so far. Don't tell the others. And thank you, audience, for all tuning in. We will see you again next week. Thanks for tuning in. It really means so much to all of us. If you're craving some real connections and you want to have these midlife conversations, join us for our next New Moon Circle. You just go to invitingshift.com/new moon and join our community. Share, support, be inspired by a group of fabulous women just like you, navigating midlife and growing connections with themselves and others. Want to support our show? The podcast world is so competitive, and your likes, subscribes, and reviews make a huge difference. Seriously, those small little clicks help us reach more amazing women. Be a hero and spread the word. I'll see you next week.